Bournemouth fall into the bottom three, Lampard under massive pressure at Everton, and Southampton remain bottom in another thrilling weekend of Premier League action. Let's dissect that Premier League relegation battle all over again. Just before we get into this video, guys, do make sure as ever to hit that thumbs up button, share your thoughts on the games we've seen down below in the comments, and do make sure to subscribe for more Premier League and Championship content. Let's go through the games game by game. I've got to say, one of the biggest games coming into this weekend, probably the biggest on the Saturday, was West Ham United versus Everton. Lampard, a former West Ham United player, David Moyes, the former Everton manager, and both under massive pressure coming into this game, and West Ham prevailing with a 2-0 win. I've got to say, I did back West Ham to win this game. I did fancy them to have a bit too much for Everton. The crisis at Everton is real. West Ham, obviously, it is a bit of a crisis to see them down there in the relegation battle, but this win does carry them out of the bottom three, and I think they are going to be okay this season, despite being in the mix. They've got a better team and more Premier League know-how than Everton in particular this season. They got the 2 goals before half-time, and it was pretty much job done by then. Although Everton obviously did try to get back into this game, West Ham obviously saw the job through. It's a massive win for David Moyes. It relieves a little bit of the pressure for now. Obviously, West Ham do have bigger games coming. As for Everton, it's been an absolute disaster these last 7 days, losing to Southampton at home, having taken the lead, and then this defeat to another team down in that bottom three. It's so costly for Frank Lampard at this moment in time. He hasn't been sacked, but it feels like he could get sacked any minute. Are they going to stick with him and think that he's not the problem, or will they change things up during January to try and save their season? Because as I've said, I think Everton could go down, and this result has not helped them. On to another massive game down the bottom. AFC Bournemouth 1, Nottingham Forest 1. Now, I didn't get my prediction right for this one. I did back Nottingham Forest to win this game, and the next best thing after winning is obviously drawing, because in a massive 6-pointer, especially with Forest being ahead of Bournemouth, they've gained another point. They keep their decent run going, and they've denied Bournemouth getting the 3. Bournemouth now fall into the bottom 3. Their run since the World Cup has been terrible. Yes, they didn't lose this game, but to be leading going into that final 10, bit of a disaster not to win in the end. Forest are 5 places ahead of Bournemouth, but the reality is they're only 4 points ahead of Bournemouth. It just goes to show that if Bournemouth win their next Premier League game and Forest lose, then it would be sandwiched again. So Bournemouth, it's not the end of the world. It is a costly result when you look back on this at the end of the season if they go down by a point or 2, because it's 2 points dropped in my opinion for Bournemouth having led going into the final 10. And for Forest, I must say, any point in the Premier League on the road is pretty good, when I do favour them a bit more when they are at the City Ground with that massive support behind them. They have got a massive game against Leeds United coming up. They'll get a bit of a rest next week in the FA Cup weekend as they are out of that competition, but they have got some pretty exciting Carabao Cup games coming against Manchester United. Like I say, this one finishing 1-1 means everything's still quite tight down there. On to the King Power, where Leicester City drew 2-2 with Brighton. My prediction wasn't right for this one either, I must say. I did back the away side to win this, and got to give Leicester some credit, because Brighton are a top team. So for Leicester to be winning going into the final couple of minutes does show that they put in a really good performance, and a frustrating one at the same time, because they conceded with 2 minutes to go. Young Ferguson popping up with the goal to save Brighton at the blushes of a defeat at the King Power. The performance is encouraging for Leicester City, and they do keep themselves just a bit clear of that bottom 3. However, a win would have been so much more important. It's not the end of the world though for Leicester. They do stay ahead of that bottom 3, and they have got James Maddison coming back now, which I think is a massive bonus. Leicester City sits in the mix, but I think they will be okay. And on to St Mary's, where Southampton lost 1-0 to Aston Villa. I was keeping an eye on this game. It did look like Southampton scored, but it wasn't allowed. And then Villa scored, and they did do a VAR check on Ollie Watkins' goal, and it was allowed. So Villa coming away 1-0 winners with that goal about 10 minutes from time. It's not great for Southampton, especially when we've started to say they've been improving. To be honest, they will be allowed a defeat or 2. If you're in a relegation battle, it's not unusual to lose games. And if they win their next game, they could still jump out of the bottom 3. It's that tight down there. However, it's just very frustrating when they have been on a good run to lose in the manner that they did. I did think this was an opportunity, but we will give Villa credit because they've been very good under Emery. I think we're all in agreement now. 3 teams going down from the Premier League will be in this region of the Premier League table now, from 13th downwards. I haven't really changed my opinion since my last video, or the bookies either. I think it still looks like Southampton, Bournemouth and Everton are the 3 favourites, but that is definitely not dead set and certain. There's so much time of this season to go, and so much could change with injuries and transfers that it could chop and change. Just looking ahead then to the next couple of games, Leeds United do need to take on Brentford in the Premier League on the Sunday. Manchester City will be hosting Wolves down the bottom as well. And then when the Premier League returns after the FA Cup weekend, we have Everton hosting Arsenal. Really tricky one for Everton. It's just Just looks very hard for them to get out of the bottom three at the moment. We have Aston Villa hosting Leicester City, who are still down in the mix. Brentford are hosting Southampton, so a tricky game for the Saints to go away there. Brighton are at home to Bournemouth. As you can see, quite a few of these strugglers are on the road. We have Wolves hosting Liverpool. They did play recently in the FA Cup. It could be an interesting match, that, with Liverpool not in the best form at the moment. We have Newcastle versus West Ham, a really tricky one for West Ham to get 3 points from. And like we say, Nottingham Forest take on Leeds, which is an absolutely massive game at the City Ground. What this Premier League table has been left like after these results is 13th place Nottingham Forest are 6 points ahead of 20th place Southampton. So things still look quite good for Nottingham Forest. It's been a really good weekend for West Ham United. Leicester City have seen signs of improvement, and Bournemouth have slipped into the bottom three. Everton still in a crisis, and Southampton remain bottom. Like I say, guys, comment your opinions down below on this Premier League weekend. Really nuts, honestly, so tight down there. I'm keeping my eyes on all of it. Do share your opinions down below, and do make sure, of course, to hit that like button, and do make sure to subscribe if you like your Premier League content. I'll see you all in the next one.